Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to be removing this old pendant light connected to knob and tube, and we're going to fish a new line across the ceiling through the crown molding and down to this existing switch right here. So this is the same house built in 1925. If you've watched my two previous videos, it's the same house here, and it's knob and tube. On the first floor here, there's no access at all, so we have to make some holes. And so that's what this video will be about. And I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, hit that like button and please subscribe. Knob and tube was the first form of electrical wiring available for public consumption. It was installed late in the 19th century and can be found in homes built prior to the 1930s. It was functional for its time, but now it is considered dangerous and should be replaced. The biggest problem with knob and tube wiring is actually two things. One, the insulation on the individual conductors is made of rubber. Modern day conductor insulation is a PVC product and can withstand higher ambient temperatures and current ratings. Two, knob and tube was installed without an equipment grounding conductor used to clear dangerous fault conditions. In fact, when knob and tube was first installed, the neutral conductor wasn't even grounded. Grounding did not become a thing until people began to complain of appliances burning out because of overvoltages caused by lightning events. Today, we deliberately make a connection to Earth in order to provide a path for induced voltage caused by lightning and other line surges. By doing this, the overvoltage condition goes to ground instead of going through our electrical system and destroying expensive electrical appliances. NEC Section 250 TAC 4A1 addresses this important to understand topic. Okay, so here we see the wiring at this kitchen light that I just took down. And as you can see, it's a piece of white sheathing on this non-metallic cable here, which is a little bit strange because down at the switch, I have like a green and silver type sheathing around it. So this leads me to believe that there's a buried splice up here in the ceiling, which would not surprise me one bit. I actually did a continuity test between this wire that was connected to the light and down to the switch, and I had no continuity, which is a mystery because that switch used to turn this light on and off. So maybe they were switching to neutral or switching to hot. I'm not exactly sure what was going on, but I could not reuse the wiring going from the switch up to that light because of this. And this is the switch box. Now you can see that wire in the upper left-hand corner there coming down. The sheathing does not match the sheathing that's up in the ceiling. So we're going to have to rewire, and that's what we're going to do. In one of the previous videos, I started rewiring some lights down in the basement, and we're going to put these two lights on that same circuit up on the first floor. It's the pendant light in the kitchen here and a pendant light in the dining room. And what was there before was actually a switch for the pendant light on the kitchen side here in this 2-gang box. And then also it was a switch that controlled some knob and tube wiring that supplied power to a UF cable going out to the detached garage down in the basement. I'm not sure if I recorded rewiring that stuff, but it was an old fuse box. And I'll put it up on the screen here now so you know what I'm talking about. And we got rid of that fuse box because it was knob and tube, and we resupplied power to the detached garage using EMT down the foundation wall. And what we're going to do here is we're actually going to put in a receptacle and also a switch. That box that's empty to the right-hand side of this 2-gang switch here used to be a knob and tube receptacle. So what we're going to do is, obviously we disconnected all the knob and tubes, so we're going to patch that hole over and get rid of that receptacle entirely. And we're going to put the receptacle in this switch box, and then of course the single pole switch for the pendant light that we're going to rewire here in a moment in the kitchen. So inside this box here, you'll see the cutout. I want to reuse it, obviously, if I can, but right on the back side of that is the dining room light. Notice that they're at different heights as well. Just some attention to detail, but this is generally what old wiring looks like here. You can see the knob and tube. The knob is right there. The wiring going into the switch box. You got a live feed going in there, and obviously the switch leg. It was not uncommon back in the day. In fact, it was a common practice, to be honest with you, to do splices right in the middle of the joist bays in the ceiling. You would just make your splice right there, and that was acceptable. Of course, adding new knob and tube now, you can still do it, I believe, in the Article 394 of the National Electrical Code. I haven't looked at it in a while because most of the time I'm just replacing it anyway. But back in the day, it was almost like anything could fly. And like I mentioned previously, the insulation on this knob and tube wiring used to be rubber, so it cannot withstand high ambient temperatures. And so when you blow insulation into a stud bay to make your house more energy efficient, and you still have the knob and tube, what you're doing is you're actually speeding up that process of that insulation decaying away off of the conductor, leaving the conductor exposed to insulation, which of course could lead to a fire. So this is why we rewire and we eliminate knob and tube. In fact, that won't work in a house that just has knob and tube. I will not add to it, even if they ask me to do that. I'm just not going to take that job. It's very similar to when I come across a Federal Pacific panel. When I see a Pacific electric panel in somebody's house and they want me to add stuff to it, I just refuse. I say, we either change this panel or you can find somebody else to do the work. So here's the medallion, and what I'm doing is I'm chipping away some of the wooden lath that's up there. It's actually right on a beam. I don't know if you can see the beam right there. So what I plan on doing is when I get the new wire from the switch here, we're going to put in a 3-inch pancake style box so that we can fill that same area right there, and the canopy and everything will go back together as we first found it. First, I got to drill some holes in this top plate, and obviously what I'm going to do here with the 2 holes that I've made is I need to fish up from the 2-gang switch box, and then I also need to fish through the wall where it meets the ceiling. So I'm trying to join 2 fish tapes together there with the hooks, and this took a little while. This was not simple. Sure, I could have made much bigger holes, but I try to be as neat as possible so whoever's patching it up doesn't have any more unnecessary work to do. And so once the 2 fishes are together, we'll connect the non-metallic sheath cable. And I think the biggest mistake I made here is I have 2 short pieces, and one piece was too long, the other one was too short. So when I get them together and I fish the wire through, I had a hard time because the fish kept falling out of the hole. I really need three hands to do this job. But once I did get it through here, obviously you're going to see me pull this through, and then eventually we're going to fish. I had to drill a hole. There's one joist in between where that wall cavity is and where the ceiling cavity is. There's a joist up there. And so I didn't know for sure what was behind that wall, but I was pretty certain there was nothing important and nothing that I would hit. So I drilled blindly until I meet the fish tapes here together and pull them through. Obviously, I've done this a few times, and I feel very confident in drilling the blind holes, even if you don't know what's on the other side. It's just an educated guess. You take a look at what's upstairs, and there is a bathroom above me here, but at this portion where this wall is, this is where the bedroom is, and I was very confident that there were no plumbing pipes, no ventilation pipes, or any wastewater drains in this joist bay. So that's what leads me to drill these holes blindly and do it with confidence. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull up 2 switch legs, one for the dining room light and one for the kitchen light that we're working today. And I'm going to leave it in this hole on the ceiling that I have. I'm going to leave the switch leg for the dining room light there, and when I come back the following day to do the dining room light, I don't have to go back down to the switch box. It'll all be in place already. And you'll see that by the end of this video as well. Yes, I do like doing this work. Anytime you take on work that other people don't want to do, you'll find plenty of work and you'll be plenty busy and you'll make a good living doing it. Now, I didn't show it here in the video, but I was able to put the fish. There's another joist in the way here, and I had to do the same thing. I have to meet the 2 ends of the 2 different fish tapes that I'm using. Lock them together and pull them through, and then tape your wire onto it, or your cable onto it here, and gently pull. So that's what I have here. I'm pulling this down, and then you'll see I'll snip the old switch leg that's no longer being used and push it up out of the way in the ceiling. Yes, you can see this wire that I'm pulling here is a little bit long, and that's okay. I always have this saying, and I was taught a long time ago, it's better to be a mile too long than an inch too short. And some of you guys that actually I've worked with in the past, other electricians, you might have heard me say that on the job before. It's better to be a mile too long than an inch too short, but not 2 miles, because that shit's expensive, if you understand what I'm saying. You don't want to waste anything, especially something as expensive as copper these days. Now, believe it or not, having that ceiling medallion in place actually makes my job a lot easier. I don't have to worry about accidentally making a hole too big or having that plaster crack. And this ceiling is actually sheetrock on top of the plaster and lath, then the wood lath behind that. So there's a lot going on right here. But with the medallion, which is that piece that's on the ceiling right there that makes that light fixture look neat, the medallion actually helps prevent any tear out from happening if you need to make a larger hole for the box here, which I didn't. I was fortunate. And so this, I don't know how old this light is, but we're going to take this old one down and put this old one back up. That's what we're going to do. We're just rewiring everything. We're not changing anything. We're not adding any additional costs, unnecessary costs for anything. Let's just get this done as quickly as possible and move on. The most, I guess the best part about this job is that nobody was actually living here at the time when I was here. So I was able to leave and then come back even like maybe 2 days later to do the work without having some stuff on. Make sure that the refrigerator was on. When I first started working there, it was a little cold. So I made sure the boiler was on its own circuit, which it was. So this way you don't have to worry about the heat or the pipes freezing or anything like that. All right, guys. So I thought I had this figured out, but the battery died. So what you missed was me putting in the devices. Put in a switch and a GFCI receptacle. Obviously we rewired this light right here, and for the first time I just turned the circuit breaker on. Now I'm going to turn the switch on. Looking good.
No, Eugene. You.
Alright, so now that I've got the kitchen wiring done, this is the following day. I came back and I'm going to do the same thing here for the dining room light. Now remember, I ran the switch legs up so they're up in the ceiling, so all I got to do is go from the ceiling over to this light and then I'm done. But this took several hours, as you can imagine. So this is what the wiring looks like. It's the old school electrical box. I'm going to show it to you in a few minutes here once I get it out. But I take down this light fixture. I need to make that hole a little bit bigger so I can fit a 3-inch box. And then, of course, have room to run new wiring so that when you take the box out of there, you'll expose the area above the ceiling and be able to either take some pictures or drill some holes or do what you need to do. So I know for sure I'm probably going to be drilling at least 2 holes here to make access. And one of the things I thought of and I should have done in the kitchen was, instead of making a rectangular cutout, I could have just used a hole saw to make that hole. So patching that would be a lot easier for the person that needs to go back to patch. And of course I know who's going back to patch. There's a fellow named Lewis in Westfield. His crew does fantastic work. They'll come in and they'll make this look like I was never there. But still, I try not to make too many holes. And so by using a hole saw, I'm able to make a consistent size hole. So when you go to patch it, it just makes things easier. I should have done that in the kitchen. I didn't. I don't know why I didn't think of that or why I did something else, but it is what it is. So here I'm just taking down this old light fixture, and I couldn't find my chain pullers. I had to do it old school with a pair of needle nose and a flathead. And so once you pull the wires out of the hickey up in the light, what you're going to do is just pull down this whole light fixture, then come back later on and take the fixture bar down with it. The hole saw with the dust bowl has been one of the best new things to happen to this trade since it came out. And I've been using this dust bowl probably for about 15 years now. Just a fantastic tool. And the way you do it is you put the hole saw inside of the dust bowl. So now when I go to make my hole up here, so I can gain access, all that dust and debris goes right inside the bowl. Just make sure you don't knock the bowl over before you empty it into the garbage can. So this medallion is a little bit deeper than the last one was, and that old pancake box, it's a routine old school knob and tube box. We see it in the middle all the time. When I use the hole saw here, I'm going to need to take the pilot drill bit out of there so I can go around and not hit that metal box and get the debris out of there as I need. So used to seeing it at this point, but the old timers, I don't think they had Phillips head screws, because these are all flathead screws that they use and screwed in by hand, and I take them out by hand because I found that that's the easiest way to do it. And so I'm going to pull out this box and I'll show it to you here momentarily. While the knob and tube conductors had insulation around them, the rubber, they also had some sheathing, and that's what this is here. So after I cut the conductors, I was able to pull this out, and that's what the old sheathing that goes over those individual conductors looks like. And that was a normal box back in the day. You could fit 4 wires in there. And then later on, they came back with BX cables and used these same boxes for about 20 years as well. They're not easy to work with. All right, so my main objective here is to make this hole as big as possible without destroying a place to mount the new box. And there actually was a wooden brace going across. So what we're going to do, instead of putting a pancake box in there, we're going to use a 3-inch by 1.5-inch box in a moment. But here what I'm using is my Franklin Sensors stud finder, and this will give you an idea where the joists are. So once I figured out where those joists are, I marked them, and now I'm going to set up my hole saw. And I think I got to put the pilot bit back in, since I had it out to make that hole at the medallion, so that I can make some uniform cutouts for access to run the wiring from the switch box here, which is up in the ceiling in the kitchen, over to the medallion here in the dining room. I figured I would just show you how I attached the hole saw. The part of my right hand is called the arbor, and the part of my left hand was the hole saw, if you did not know. Okay, so now I'm making these holes. I've figured out exactly where I need to make holes to get the wiring from where it is in the kitchen now over to that medallion. And we're going to make 2, and so we're going to be drilling a couple of blind holes, and then we're going to line up our fish tapes like we did in the kitchen to join them together and pull them through. Okay guys, so after opening up the access holes, I found the wire that was going to the light. And I got a bead on it going from here, from the first access hole to the second access hole. But there's such a distance right here, and plus there's a mounting board going across that I'm going to mount my new box to once I get the wiring over here. So I can't make this cutout any larger without making another problem later. So right now my main issue is getting from the light to this second access hole here, right up above me, to get the wire across. So I'm going to drill a hole going in this way and try to get through to the other joist. I'll put a flashlight up in there, see if I see any light. If I have some light, then I know I can fish it across. Now you might be saying to yourself, why don't you just use that old conductor from the knob and tube to pull the new wire through? Which is a great idea. I'm not going to argue with that. The trouble with that is we have those tubes that go through the joists, and so you're not going to be able to pull that non-metallic sheath cable through that tube, which is going to be lodged in there without access to breaking it off that conductor without opening up the ceiling more. I hope I described that accurately. So the tube that goes through the ceiling joist is going to be the same hole that the new non-metallic sheath cable is going to go through, but because that tube is in the way, there's no way of dislodging that tube and without bringing the NM cable through that tube, and it's not going to fit in the tube at all. Definitely not. So I spent a few minutes, probably longer than I wanted to, trying to do that, and then I realized what was happening, and so I had to go back to the drawing board. So here I'm just trying to get my fish tapes in line, and as you can see, I've gone from the light to the first access hole, and now I'm going from the first access hole to the access hole closest to the wall. My left arm is in there now. And so this hole that I made just big enough for what I needed to do. And so all in all, I would say this took me a few hours, maybe 2 hours in total to get this done, maybe 3, which is okay. I charge per opening. So the medallion, that light right there, that's one charge. The switch is another charge. The 2 switches on the other side is another charge. And then, of course, the light up in the ceiling in the kitchen is also another charge. So I charge per opening. I'm not going to reveal what I charge because somebody's going to say that's too much. And then another guy will come in and tell me it's not enough. So this is the price point that works for me and my business. Okay, I'm caught on something there. I definitely met the 2 snakes. I got the one fish from the kitchen side and there's the dining room side. I'm just trying to go through one hidden beam right here and we're trying to catch. And I think this piece of the fish is attached to the other piece. I'm gonna try to pull it through. So I definitely think it was a good idea to run the wiring, and that's that loop of wire you see hanging from the ceiling right there. That's got to go over to the dining room light where the medallion is at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. And so what I'm doing is I'm going between the 2 walls here trying to join the fish tapes. And I think what eventually happens here is I drill a couple more holes up there and I eventually just push the fish right through one of the holes on the other side and the fish came right through without joining the 2 fishes. So sometimes you work really, really long time to get something done and then you get lucky like that. So what wound up happening is I was trying to fish those 2 together from the kitchen side to the dining room side. And I finally just pushed it straight through both of the holes that I've already drilled. So good for me. Now I'm going to tie on the switch leg and try to get it over to our dining room light. Then I'll stop for lunch and take it from there. So sometimes you get lucky, and when I pushed the fish through this hole here to attach my wire, as you can see on the other side in the dining room, you couldn't see the other end of that fish tape because it was just long enough to get through this hole. And so I had to make sure it didn't fall out of the holes. And so there, now you can see I'm going to pull it through. And now we've got the wiring that was set up in the kitchen into the dining room. And all we have to do now is get it to the second access hole and then eventually over to the lighting medallion. Put the new box in, hang the new light fixture, and we'll be good to go. If you like this video, do me a favor, hit that like button. Really appreciate you guys watching these videos, and I hope you learned something from them. If I could give you a piece of advice, when you're doing this work, your hands are going to get very, very dirty. I usually don't wear gloves unless it's, chemicals or whatever. But be sure not to touch those ceilings if you can help it. Respecting your customer's property and keeping things clean by using drop cloths goes a long way in keeping the good customers. All right, so it looks like I'll be able to just push this 3-inch round box up there. I plan on coming into the top with my wiring. There's a little bit of space. Then using these 2 outside screw holes, get a ground screw in there to attach it to the wood that's above it. I was very fortunate to have the brace going across that the previous box was screwed to, and the light held up there for years with that, so I was very confident that even with my new box, this would support the light fixture, which weighs less than probably 10 pounds. The thing was not heavy at all. So very fortunate to have that there. Now, because the previous box I couldn't reuse, they had a hickey set up on that box. I think that's what they call it, a little hickey. I had to go out and buy this new fixture bar to mount the 1/2-inch nipple here, which is what attaches the canopy to the housing. And so that's what I'm working with here. Put the new fixture bar in place. I just set it up. I figured I'd show you what I bought. I just need the nipple and the fixture bar, and the other stuff is probably in my truck somewhere just waiting to be used. I don't use this stuff too often anymore. Most of the time I'm taking down old light fixtures and putting in new ones. But when you change the box, you're going to have to have these parts available. And so I didn't have them because it's a new truck. I didn't have them on the new truck. I had to go to Home Depot, which was fine. At lunchtime, I go to my favorite place in Garwood, New Jersey for lunch, and then the Home Depot in Garwood's right around the corner. Once I came back, I was able to put the box in, put the fixture bar up, rehang the light, and this job was complete. I forget what I did after this, but if you like this video, do me a favor, hit the like button, and if you want to see more content like this, subscribe. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
Hi, this is Ron from Classic Electric. YouTube thinks that you'll like these 2 videos on the screen, so go ahead and check them out. Don't forget to leave a comment, like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.